Welcome back to the latest edition of Conference Chatter TV. My name is Eric Sorrentino. I'm the Big 12 blogger for KUSports.com. And I kind of feel like tonight that I'm on the drive or the game day cram session or something like that. We are down here recording in the basement tonight of the Lawrence Journal-World News Center. Same place where you can find those shows on Channel 6 and on KUSports.com. So it's kind of cool to be down here. But let's get to talking about some of the Week 7 happenings that occurred in the Big 12. If my last video was called the rivalry episode, this episode has got to be the surprise episode because a bunch of things happened that I did not see happening. I went 3-3 in Week 7 to bring my record to 48-13 for the season. We're picking at a 78% clip. Well, let's start out with Texas and Oklahoma. I predicted that game correct. I picked UT to prevail in that game. It was a low-scoring battle like I thought. I missed some other games, and we'll get to those in a minute, but the biggest game of the weekend was Texas and Oklahoma. And really what that one came down to was just the Texas defense stepping up just a little bit more than the OU defense. Texas held Oklahoma to negative 12 rushing yards. The Sooners could not run the football in Dallas. They had 2 interceptions and 3 fumble recoveries, so 5 turnovers for the OU offense. And I just love what Will Muschamp is doing over there in Austin, particularly with the UT secondary. I'm going to look at a couple of guys here in this secondary. It starts with Earl Thomas. He had that game-clinching interception, and then he also forced a fumble and had a team-best 7 tackles. Then you take a look at a guy like Aaron Williams at cornerback. He had an interception, and that was just a great interception. You saw him climb the ladder for that pick against Oklahoma. You got a guy like Blake Gideon at safety making plays for Texas too. I'm looking at a common theme with these guys. They are all sophomores, only sophomores, so they're going to be there for a couple more years, and Texas is already playing defense at a very, very high level, one of the best in the country. And it's not just in the secondary. Muschamp really has the guys up front playing well also. Texas now number 1 in the country in rushing defense with only 35 yards allowed per game, so they have a lot of guys up front in that interior as well. The UT defense really, really impressed me because Texas, let's face it, they didn't look that dominating. The offense was effective at times, but Colt McCoy wasn't unstoppable. And, the offense struggled at times. Texas ran the ball a little bit better with Fozzie Whitaker. Colt McCoy carried a little bit more than he's used to, but they got the job done. But I really credit that win to Texas's defense and the game plan that Will Muschamp implemented. A very impressive showing. I'm looking at Texas's schedule, and it sets up pretty well. If they can get by these next 2 weeks, let's see, they have at Missouri and then at Oklahoma State. If they can get past those games, I think they'll finish the season, or the regular season at least, undefeated. Because after that, they are home to Central Florida, which is obviously a win. Then they're at Baylor, they're home to Kansas, and then at Texas A&M. They could run the table there. These next 2 weeks are going to be pivotal, though, for the Longhorns if they want to finish undefeated and play for the national championship. Mack Brown has really turned the tide in this Red River rivalry. OU had won 5 straight games from 2000 to 2004 against UT. Since then, Texas, 4 of the past 5 games. Mack Brown's doing a really good job over there, obviously, with Texas, which won again 16-13 over Oklahoma. Switching it to Oklahoma's outlook, it's not looking great in terms of them repeating as Big 12 champions, which they've done the past 3 years. They've won the Big 12. Probably not going to happen this year. Very tough scene with Sam Bradford re-injuring his throwing shoulder in the second series for Oklahoma. I would be surprised if Bradford plays much, if at all, the rest of the year. That remains to be seen, though. And OU's schedule the rest of the way, not as favorable. They still have road games at Kansas, Nebraska, and Texas Tech, and they still have Oklahoma State at home. So their schedule not as favorable as Texas. But tough calls for Oklahoma. I mean, this is a team that's 3-3, and their 3 losses are by a combined 5 points, and they've lost to all good teams. So I think Oklahoma's a very good football team. Their defense played great. But the offense, it just wasn't enough. 5 turnovers, not going to get the job done against UT. So that was an interesting game. I predicted that one correct. Let's take a look at my misses, though, because I had some ones that I would have never thought. How about Texas Tech 31, Nebraska 10? I mean, I had the Huskers in this one, and you know, after this loss, they dropped out of the top 25. They're thinking about changing quarterbacks from Zach Lee to Cody Green. It's just a mess up in Lincoln with the offense. The defense is still playing pretty well, but this was a terrible way for Nebraska to open the conference season at home. Of course, they had that road win against Missouri where they looked really good with that 27-point comeback in the fourth quarter. But now the offense is struggling. The guys are dropping passes. The receivers are dropping passes. And they're thinking about going with that two-quarterback system, or they did for a time there against Texas Tech. And to me, that's just a sign that an offense lacks direction. I mean, I've never been a fan of the two-quarterback system, and I just, you know, one guy or the other. Look, Colorado picked one guy or the other. They went with Tyler Hansen, and they ended up beating Kansas. That's, you know, I don't think that the two-quarterback system is a way for an offense to get in any offensive rhythm. And so Nebraska's really, really struggling. I mean, I was drinking the Nebraska defense Kool-Aid, if you will. I don't know if I was drinking the Kool-Aid all the way for them to win the North, but I thought they were a very good team. Looked really flat at home against Texas Tech. So I lost that one. And I mentioned Tyler Hansen in Colorado. That's another one that I lost. 34-30, Colorado over Kansas. Wow. Tyler Hansen igniting a previously struggling Colorado offense, to say the least. I mean, didn't this guy look like Todd Reesing, though? I mean, he's making plays. He's scrambling from the pocket. He has an ability to get out of the pocket and avoid sacks and extend the play. We saw that several times on Saturday. The state of the North right now is not good. It's just not good. Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri all lost on Saturday. And, you know, the South is considerably better than the North, again, in the Big 12 this year. The third game that I lost was maybe the most surprising development of Week 7, in my opinion. Kansas State, 62. That's right, 62. Texas A&M, 14. K-State was up 59-0 at one point. Where did this come from? All facets were working for Kansas State. You know, when you look at offense, defense, and special teams, their offense, 6 rushing touchdowns, 4 by Daniel Thomas. Then you look at their defense against A&M. They had 6 sacks, 3 interceptions against Gerard Johnson, a guy who hadn't thrown an interception all season. Then you look at their special teams, and you look at Brandon Banks with a 96-yard kickoff return to open the second half. It was just all working for K-State. I want to know where this has been all season. You're talking about a team that put up 15 points at Louisiana Lafayette. You're talking about a team that beat Iowa State but didn't look that pretty doing it on offense. Where did this come from? I have no idea. But K-State now leads the North at 2-1 in the Big 12. I mean, that's very, very surprising. That's got to be the most surprising development from Week 7 to me, is K-State and how well they played. Credit them. Credit Bill Snyder for really having his team ready, and they just pummeled A&M. Other games that I predicted correct had Texas, of course, and then Oklahoma State 33, Missouri 17, and then Iowa State beating Baylor 24-10. So I think that takes care of it. We had the rivalry episode last video, and this one is definitely the surprising episode because a lot of just unforeseen circumstances in Week 7, but an exciting week in the Big 12, and that's really all you can ask for as a follower of the conference. So I appreciate you guys checking out the latest episode, and I will talk to you guys again next week. Thanks.